Okay, so what we were wanting to do this morning is just have a little bit of a pre-planning seminar, if you want to call it that, and about the three main reasons why one would want to consider pre-planning. A lot of people are curious, but sometimes it's afraid. They're maybe a little afraid to kind of pull that trigger to walk through the door and talk to us. So we're reaching out this way and trying to encourage people to win the appreciation of their families. And this can be done by covering some of the bases that are often forgotten. We want to bring that to people's attention today. And so when a loved one passes away and the family and friends find themselves in a pretty difficult situation in their grieving, we find that the stress can be quite overwhelming. In fact, as we think about the importance of the pre-planning, the stress that comes when there's not those plans made has been determined by the Oregon Health Science University that just that one experience by family members is worse than the entire loss of a house fire and the trauma that comes from there, of finding that they've lost someone, they don't know what to do, and the paperwork may not be in order. So Brad, we're going to move into this and talk about these three reasons why we should do some pre-planning.
Yeah, in many cases, the emotional toll a death can take is made worse by the responsibility of making funeral arrangements. There can be up to 125 tasks that need to be completed after somebody passes away, plus the burden of cost, whether it's locating the funds to pay for final expenses or wondering what dollar amount is too much or too little to spend. This combined with uncertainty of a loved one's final wishes may result in a hastily made decision. Family and friends want to spend their time remembering the memories they shared. However, they are usually so caught up in the planning of the memorial or the funeral plans that they aren't able to grieve the way they need to during the most critical time. Most families would rather spare their family from the stress of planning for the funeral. So by pre-planning, this takes that stress away. Does that kind of cover it there, Dan?
Yes, it does. Another thing that we found is that pre-planning allows us to make all the arrangements, including financing now, when we are able to be in control of those decisions. And so when a person chooses to pre-plan, their family doesn't have to worry about all of the meticulous details of what is going to happen. As Brad mentioned, the 125 different decisions that have to be made in a very short time. You know, most people, when they're planning a wedding, take months and even years to plan that, and a funeral, we're looking at just a few days. And so it's trying to put all of that information together in a short period of time without any governing documents causes a lot of stress. And pre-planning takes the burden off of our families, not only financially, but also emotionally. And so we found that there are three major benefits of pre-planning the funeral. And the first one is to take away difficult decision making. Brad, speak to that a little bit, if you would.
Yeah, most families or that are thinking about pre-planning, they already know what they want to be remembered, but does the family know? So if they know your wishes, all the family remembers in agreement. In the middle of grief, it can be difficult to decide what a loved one would have wanted. So even after talking to your family, so many, some may remember your expressed wishes in different ways when the time comes. These differences can cause disputes, uncertainty, and second guessing. So if you've experienced a loss in the past, then you know those emotional struggles that were faced at that time. So by pre-planning, will save your family from this, and by pre-planning these decisions, and giving yourself a peace of mind that you know your wishes will be fulfilled. This way you can focus on, the family can focus on recalling the cherished memories, and rather than orchestrating the funeral details, and that can be left up to the funeral director instead of the family having to take that responsibility on.
That's good. You know, you take just a minor stressor, like as we're going out, maybe going through the drive-through or a restaurant, you're with multiple people in the car, and you ask everybody what they want. And even people we've lived with a long time, sometimes we don't know what they want in something as simple as that. And we know the stress of getting up to make the order and trying to get all of that communicated, and then going through the drive-through and then finding out that there's been mistakes. And so when things are put down on paper, it makes the pre-planning process, when that time comes where it's put into action, a real blessing. And before we go on to the next one, Brad, have you ever had anybody say that they were sorry that their parents or their loved one pre-planned?
No, never. They're always so thankful that their parents or their loved one had made all those decisions. Many times, it's the family is relieved that those decisions were already made. I find that whenever they don't have those decisions made and or put in place ahead of time, that the family seems to struggle more with trying to make decisions, and makes it a little more difficult for them at the time. Plus, on top of all the stress after losing a loved one.
That's good. The second major reason that pre-planning is so important is that it ensures that the family is not going to be burdened with the funeral costs. As we know,
Mm.
everything has an expense to it, and funerals are no exception. Brad, talk a little bit about the average funeral costs and
Well,
what people.
yeah. Well, what people can expect at today's cost, an average traditional service would cost anywhere from $7,000 up to $10,000, depending on what um, merchandise, casket, outer burial container was chosen. So luckily, pre-funding ensures the family doesn't have to take on those financial burdens themselves, and it financially benefits the family over time in the long run. And it locks in the price at today's cost. So in the future, as inflation rises, the surviving family isn't left with the expense of what it would cost at the time of death. So it's a big help, and then financially for families left behind.
That's good. Dylan, why don't you jump in here and explain a little bit about what National Guardian Life is and the program that we offer here at the funeral home?
Yeah, National Guardian Life is an insurance company, a life insurance company that we offer here at the funeral home. And a couple of the main advantages to this program are that it does lock in funeral prices at today's rate and protects against future price increasing. And it removes the worry about how arrangements will be paid. So that's all taken care of here at the funeral home. And it protects your family from unnecessary expenses that you may not have wanted. So you get the choice on your casket and how much that costs. If you choose to fund through a special pre-need insurance policy, any unpaid balances can be waived if you pass away while making payments on your policy. Funerals are undoubtedly expensive, but pre-planning gives you the financial options rather than expecting your family to face those expenses unexpectedly.
Yeah.
Right, Brad, why don't you jump in here and talk about some more about this program and the costs?
Yeah, pre-planning ahead enables the family to make financial arrangements to cover the funeral cost. So even if you are leaving behind sufficient funds or sufficient money, um, uh, your survivors will be able to access it. Funeral insurance and funeral trust are sound financial planning options that you can consider ahead of time. So this will help not only lock in the price at today's expenses, it ensures that it covers the inflation cost over time.
That's good. Dylan, I'm going to have you come back here in a little bit and talk about how people can reach out to us on this. The way we're operating right now, just like we're doing over this forum, we're able to do a lot of things online and over the telephone. And the hardest step for the pre-planning process is taking the first step of deciding to do something. And we want to go to the third point this morning that is really, really important. And that's deciding to organize the vital information, get it all into one place. And so pre-planning with Ray Funeral Chapel allows you to do that. And so Brad, let's detail out some of the ways that people can put this information on file.
Yeah, there's several things that can be left on file here that families will know that are in one place. A copy of important information about the final wishes can be kept on file at the funeral home. In addition, pre-planning gives you an opportunity to compile important information, including vital documents such as a birth certificate, advance directives, wills, things like that. Military records such as a copy of the DD-214 can be left on file here if the deceased is a veteran. Life insurance information to help assist the family in obtaining other benefits, notification, contact list and information, any survivors that need to be contacted, and any special instructions to assist the family with personalization of your final arrangements. So a lot of that stuff can be left here at the funeral home in one place so the family doesn't have to try and search for that later. Everything that we would need to help finalize the arrangements at the time of passing.
All right. Well, let's have you go ahead and prepare to share your screen. I'm going to drop mine down.
Okay.
And take us to our website and show us the tools that we have there that anyone can access.
Okay. So on our website, rayfuneralservice.com, we have several different tabs, and one of the main important locations on our website that families can go to ahead of time or at need is this connect family to family. Ours is committed to yours. So anyone can go on here and click on this connect tab and scroll down, and it has several different things that you can look at by area: lodging, creating catering services, restaurants, service music, uploading media. But more importantly, down here at the bottom, if someone's pre-planning or thinking about pre-planning, it's different than pre-paying. So you can pre-plan your service and leave that on file here just by clicking on this screen, pre-plan in advance, and it will take you to a page that we would need all this information to start any type of funeral arrangements, from the death certificate to writing an obituary. So the person filling this out would put in this information that is required with the red asterisks, and then the information is for, and that would be the person that you're pre-planning for those arrangements. So everything on here would be questions that would be asked during the funeral arrangement conference with the funeral director. So if this is already in place and here on file, when a family fills this out, It has everything that we need. They would go all the way down to the bottom, even as living survivors, deceased survivors. And then they would submit this form, and that comes to us in an email. We would print it out and have it in advance that we could go ahead and have on file. And then if they wanted to come in later and talk about a National Guardian Life prepaid plan, then we would have this information already in place, and it makes it a lot easier for them at the time they want to make the National Guardian Life policy in place.
That's excellent. It makes it so easy on families that
Yeah.
they can sit down together, or you can do it on your own for yourself.
Right.
Why don't you talk a little bit about the psychology of a funeral and why it's important?
The psychology of a funeral for grieving, more than anything, it helps families get through the grieving process. So some families handle grieving differently. No family is ever the same. So whenever you're having a funeral ceremony of any kind, whether it's traditional service or whether it's a cremation memorial service, that process of the funeral ceremony or memorial ceremony helps that family through the grieving process and get through it more easily, I should say, maybe. But that's the biggest thing with funeral ceremonies or memorial services.
You know, something that I've noticed in the last few years are some families who have maybe went the route of something more simple, like just a direct cremation, and they never really held anything as a family or whatever. They have made a few comments over time that they wish they would have done something just a little different.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
go ahead.
Something on their own, some type of a gathering that they could hold as a family. It helps with that grieving process and that closure, just letting them have closure, that finalized things or arrangements are done, and they have that closure for grieving.
Right. And, even, we're talking about the ease of pre-planning. Sometimes the pre-planning process opens up a discussion where family might say, you know what, hey, let's think a little different about this, because they're beginning to talk about it. And so that's all a good thing.
Yes.
Well, thanks for sharing that part there. Another important thing about the pre-planning process is it puts you in control of your arrangements. And so you become the driver of this vehicle of decisions. And so one thing that we do as a funeral home is we come alongside of you. You're the driver. We tell you the options that are available to you and help you put them into place. But this is your plan. And when you decide to fund that plan, those are your finances also. And so they stay in a guarded program. National Guardian Life holds those funds, and then they are dispersed at the time that someone passes away to cover those expenses. And so, Dylan, why don't you take a moment to tell us how people can contact us to begin the pre-planning process and even to put a plan in place?
Well, you can always call us at the funeral home at 660-826-4732. And another avenue of setting an appointment with us is through our Facebook page. On our business page, there is a tab that says Book Now, and we use a program called Setmore. And you put in your name and number and a time slot that is available. And then we go ahead and confirm that appointment with you, and it'll even give you text reminders of when that appointment is so you don't forget.
All right, that's good. Brad, why don't you take a moment to kind of finish up here, and then we'll go ahead and get off of the Facebook feed, and you can talk to the folks who are here in a more private way.
Okay. One thing to add real quick too is I get a lot of questions about prepaying for funeral plans. I always get the question, well, what if we move, or what if you're no longer in business? So what families need to keep in mind that this is a guarded funded plan that is still your money, held financially and securely with National Guardian Life. So it's transferable to any place. If you were to move, it can be used at any other funeral home. That funeral home would just be named the provider of the services, and then National Guardian Life would send those funds to that funeral home. So, so I get that question a lot. So I just wanted to add that in there. But by taking care of your funeral arrangements is a thoughtful and caring thing to do for your family. So families will greatly appreciate it. It will be taking a burden off of their shoulders and giving them that comfort, knowing that your arrangements are taken care of. And you can assure that they will appreciate that you're caring for them continually after you are gone. With that said, I want to thank everyone for joining us, and we're always available to serve you, either by phone, through our website, or through Messenger or Facebook. So again, thank you. And as always, Ray Funeral Chapel, caring for our families, family to family. Ours is committed to yours. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brad. That's excellent. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go ahead and end our Facebook live feed. But if you're watching us on Facebook, you're always welcome to send us a message. We'll reach out to you. You can call us, whatever information you need, we have it handily available to put out to you. All right. Thank you. Give me just a moment here, Brad, and we're going to get this off.
Okay.
And so, Joanne, what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this meeting, then I'm going to come back and start it. So you'll just stay right where you're at. Okay.